Yes, indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Total Biscuit, and you're listening to Blue Please right here on CynicalBricks.com. Well. We're looking at some more stuff that was submitted by the community. Like I say, I'm giving away these indie packs. I will contact you via email if you submitted the question. Valamir, rage-faced Scotsman comment. You mad, bro? You mad? He sounds mad. Do you think he's mad? I think he's mad. Oh, man. It's fairly hilarious. Oh, dear. I'm going to offend at least one major ethnic group every show. Yes, now it's got to an ethnic group. Okay. Well, there's another thread that I'd like to tackle right here that someone suggested, and it's like, barely even had to say anything about it. Just had to send it in, and then the rage. So, it's called the number of flight points worries me. Here's a few examples for Horde side, says Kazelhoff. Stone Talon Mountains has 5 flight points, a whopping 10 if you count both sides. Western Plaguelands has 6 flight points. Felwood has 4 or 5. Totally looks like casual craft. Hey. It kind of takes the world out of World of Warcraft if you can literally flight point everywhere. There should be some traveling. There is traveling. Remind me if I can flight point into the area where my mobs are in order to kill them. Because last time I checked, it actually takes quite a long time to cross some of those zones. Indeed, Stone Talon Mountains is goddamn enormous. Have you seen the size of that zone now? It is freaking huge. Felwood had like 1 flight point. 1, as I recall, back in the day. And it was horrible. Really bad. Western Plaguelands, 6 flight points. Yeah, I can totally understand why that would be. It's like, totally looks like World of Casual Craft. Okay. So, I have to ask why people like this actually think this way. I've always been trying to figure it out. But, as it turns out, I can't work it out. I think that they just have this desire to see everything, absolutely everything, as some kind of slight on their pro-gamer honor. That has got to be it. What other explanation is there? I don't recall there being any kind of explanation that would apply here. I don't think so. Let's consider it for a second. So, a casual player. What is a casual player? Well, the most commonly accepted definition by people who aren't clinically retarded would be a casual player is somebody who plays when they have the time, not necessarily on a specific schedule. If you have a schedule for WoW, in my opinion, you're not actually a casual player, because you are deliberately scheduling parts of your day to play a video game. You are not a casual player if you are able to do that. The casual player is the kind of player that logs in when he has the time. Like, if I log in at a specific time every day, I'm not a casual player, even if I only play for 10 minutes. That doesn't make me casual. Casual players are people that just like, oh, right, I just happen to have some spare time now. You know, I haven't planned it, but I'm going to log into WoW anyway. I'm casually playing this game. The nature of the game is that it's pick up and play. This is why most casual games, they're not necessarily easy. I mean, try some of the ridiculous stuff on Peggle. It's actually really hard to get all of the stuff on Peggle. But it's a pick up and play game. As in, you don't have to dedicate a significant portion of time to actually get anything out of it. That's it. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, technically, there are times when I've been a casual player, but aside from that, it comes down simply to the fact that if I want to raid, then generally I'll want to actually schedule it. Now, when it comes down to this, it's like, this doesn't make any sense. Are you saying that only casual players use flight points and that hardcore players deliberately ride everywhere? Are you suggesting perhaps that hardcore players don't use 100% speed ground mounts because that's too casual? You know, they use the old school 60% speed ground mount. Or indeed, the really super hardcore players just walk everywhere, not run, they actually press the walking key. Because that doesn't happen. Hardcore players, in fact, benefit significantly from this because they are about efficiency. And they will plan their routes, and they will use the flight points at their disposal to make sure that it is the most efficient thing possible. That doesn't make the game casual, that's in fact quite the opposite. It benefits everybody. It doesn't benefit casual players any more than hardcore players. At all. Why would it? Think about it. It just... Come on, really? I don't know where this guy gets off saying things like that. It's such nonsense. The problem is that this kind of thing gives hardcore, quote-unquote, players a bad name. Yeah? Because hardcore players are seen as a bunch of whiny elitists. And any feedback they give is like, oh, you're just hardcore elitist whiner. It's like, shut up. But then you have to understand exactly why these people think this way. They think this way because there are people on the other side that are equally, if not more, stupid. This guy being a prime example of that. There should be some travelling. There is. And you can do it, if you so desire, on the back of a flying mount. Or if you really don't want to, you can ride it. There is nothing stopping you. It's like, he's using that. Do you hate mages? I have to ask a question here. Do you hate mages? Or indeed, do you hate, say, shaman? You know, with their astral recall? Because mage is the most casual class in the world. Oh my god, we can teleport. No travelling. When was the last time I actually travelled anywhere? Not really. When I was raiding, the last thing I wanted to do was waste time travelling. Summoning stones. The most hardcore guilds use summoning stones, of course. Oh, that's so casual. That's so casual. They should all be travelling. It's just garbage. It's absolute dross. It's utterly illogical. There's no sense in what this guy is saying. None. I wonder, did he rejoice when the change was made to remove portals from Dalaran? Or did he indeed join the throng of people whining about it? I am willing to believe that he joined the throng of people whining about it. Seriously, it would not surprise me in any way if he did. Like I say, people like this are hypocrites. It's as simple as that. They absolutely are 110% hypocritical in this regard. And that is just incredibly stupid, isn't it, when you think about it? And I suppose it brings up an interesting point and an interesting question inadvertently, and that is, what elements of the game do you consider to be hardcore and what elements do you consider to be casual? What swings the game in one direction or the other? What I would say is that if you were to, say, take all of the flight points out of the game, would that actually stop casuals from enjoying it? The answer actually is no, it wouldn't. If anything, it would waste the time of hardcores more, because hardcore players are on a schedule. This is true, they have a schedule. That's what makes hardcore players hardcore. Because they are willing to schedule their life around a video game. Whereas, in the case of casual players, the game has to be fit in somewhere with their real life, and that fitting in is often very irregular and often unplanned. So, for a hardcore player, let's say there were less flight points. Let's just say, for instance, that we took his argument and we said, right, okay, well, obviously, Blizzard paying attention to this post, you can see them there. You've got Mike Morhaime there, you've got, obviously, Chris Metzen's trying to come up with the lore for the fact that suddenly there are no flight points anymore, and he comes out with some kind of cosmic rays, there's solar flares, solar winds, massive microwave radiation that's causing anything that flies and need to just fall out of the sky in a ball of flames, Icarus style. So he's coming up with that and possibly eating magic mushrooms at the time just to make either take away the pain of having to do it or just make more sense in his head, you know? And then Mike Morhaime sitting there with a very stern look on his face reading this post, and he's handed out this dossier to all of the really, really important people. And the dossier is nothing but a printout of that particular forum post. And they're saying, gentlemen, this is a disaster. We must deal with this ASAP. And if that were the case, and his argument were the case, then let's take all the flight points out of WoW and look who complains the most. The answer will be the hardcore players, because their time is wasted. Now, a prime example would be back in the day when summoning stones did not exist, and indeed when summoning portals did not exist, and you had to fly. There are certain areas, for instance, as the Horde getting to Molten Core and Blackwing Lair was something of a pain in the ass. Hearthstone in Kargath, I remember having to do that. Getting down to Silithus was pretty much a gigantic pain in the ass. Where's the nearest main travel hub to Silithus? Can you think of it? Yeah, because it's Thunderbluff. That was the way back in the day. Right, okay, great, I've got to go to Thunderbluff to get down to Silithus. Silithus flight, I believe, from Orgrimmar was something like 15 minutes. And that is a huge amount of time spent and indeed wasted. So, when I was hardcore raiding Silithus, there are a few things that I had to bear in mind. Bear in mind, it was 40-man raid, so summoning tended to not happen, because, of course, you don't want your Warlock burning soul shards that it needs for other things. This was back in the day when all of this convenient stuff didn't happen. So, alright, I'm burning soul shards because your lazy ass can't get here. Right, okay, so if my raid is at 1900, then I have to be on the flying mount before quarter to the hour. Because I've got to fly there. The main flight point and travel hub, if I recall, at that point in Silithus was the main town area. So then I have to ride all the way over to Anchorage, which is another good few minutes, 5, I think, on a mount. And then I've got to consider the possibility that I might get ganked in the meantime because I'm on a PvP server, so that I've got to allow additional time for in order to make sure that my raid starts on time. So if I were to take flight points out of the game, or if I were to have less flight points, instead of just having a flight point directly to Anchorage or whatever, or have flight points and direct travel hubs to various areas, just bear in mind, by the way, that having more flight points doesn't make flying any faster. Flying is at a specific speed. What I'd say now, probably, that flying is faster specifically for one reason, and that reason is that they now no longer have to avoid these areas that were actually non-existent. Because a lot of the areas in old school World of Warcraft were, in fact, as many of you might be aware, especially if you've seen those exploration videos, and on private servers, model viewer, map viewer, things like that, they just weren't there. It was cardboard scenery. I mean, half of the Undercity, for instance, didn't have an outside. Why? Because there was no way you would ever get to look at it. So they didn't bother putting it there. It's the same with Orgrimmar. Most of Orgrimmar was two-dimensional. Because, again, there would be no situation. You could have your flying out of the flight points go a very specific way to avoid unfinished areas, things like that. Like I say, this kind of thing is very much detrimental to proper, rational, sensible discussion. And the problem is, it's an epidemic. People are this dumb very, very frequently on a wide variety of different mediums. WoW forums all over the place, whether they be official or otherwise, are clogged with this nonsense. People that take these things and go massively over the top with them and are not remotely rational about them. And it is damaging. Because the people who are actually sensible and willing to debate things properly and can actually come out with a conclusion at the end of it, a meeting of the minds, as it were, something that would be useful feedback, constructive criticism to Blizzard, it doesn't happen because they can't be arsed dealing with idiots like this. And can you blame them? Absolutely not. Why do you think I don't post on these bloody forums anymore? I have my own personal platform to tell people how stupid this is. Because I'm sick to death, the back teeth indeed, of trying to argue with brick walls. Brick walls made out of bricks of pure, unrefined, raw stupidity. And I can tell you for a fact that is not a solid foundation for a reasonable discussion. My name is Total Biscuit, and you're listening to Blue Please here on cynicalbrit.com. When I come back after the break, we'll be going through some more listener-submitted topics. In the meantime, I would quite like to play something. We're going to have to do... Yeah, I know exactly what we're going to have to play. You know what I've got to play. Sadly, folks, Nocturnal Rights has it correct in this one. Fools never die. Enjoy.